if he were in that position, he would have negotiated a much tougher deal. That's probably true. I mean, there's actually some validity to that point, that there's no way under any rational circumstances that those companies should have gotten 100 cents in the dollar for the money they were owed by AIG.
William Black, I'd like to ask you about this whole issue of the mortgage settlement that was announced. It is really, to me, it's amazingly scandalous that years later, justice has not been forthcoming for all of these homeowners who lost their homes. I think the settlement calls for about $3.5 billion in cash to some 3 million homeowners. That works out to maybe about $1,000 a homeowner. Here we had instances of banks with the massive robo-signings, evicting people from homes that they didn't even legally own at the time. The thing became such a mess that the government review ended up wasting about $1 billion just on the consultants hired to review all the bank foreclosures. What do you make of this settlement?
So the first thing is, this is more of what Matt and people like me have been writing about for years.
Well, good afternoon.
Community of the elite Wall Street.
It's kind of a great Friday.
Who caused this crisis through fraud, who became wealthy because of those
and
frauds.
I welcome you to Friday, January. What is it today? The 11th now? Good for us. We've made it all the way to the 11th. So I'm Caitlin Redding. I am here at River West Radio, live on Center Street. If you're watching us on Ustream, you can see the view out my front window here. Our booth is in the window. Very unique, very unique. So I'm going to take this opportunity today to rebroadcast an interview that I did prior to Christmas in December. A lot of us probably didn't have time to slow down, stop, and listen to it. But it becomes relevant again as I will be traveling down to the Gulf water states in order to witness and hear some more spoken word and bring some interviews, more interviews back here, and more information on this kind of underground movement that a lot of us aren't aware of. So that'll be later on. Oh, if anybody had a chance to watch the news this afternoon around noon or so, you saw that the president had a press conference live again on the front lawn of the White House. You know, that little area, that staging area when they do interviews with visiting dignitaries. So they're here making a good face of it, good show for all of us to see, talking about well, actually what they're doing is revisiting the 2014 deadline to have U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. And they're kind of hemming and hawing on the language and saying, well, of course we can't pull out everything. We're going to be here to, our presence will be here to promote training and organization and order until the Afghanistani can take care of themselves, whom I'm sure many of the adults probably think that they're already capable of taking care of their own country. Well, there's all kinds of news. Where do we start today? Where do we start? How about if I read a story to you about good old Scott Walker? Not one of my favorite people. I don't know if he's one of yours, but we can agree to disagree. Anyway, this comes from Common Dreams. This was posted on Friday, January 4th, and I'm just getting it now. Sorry about that. The landmark Wisconsin mining moratorium under siege. Prove it first lost, subject of well-funded mining industry attack on a grassroots and tribal movement. A lot of you people may not be aware. The changes that our Governor Scott Walker is raking on our landscape, our lifetime and several generations scarring of the state of Wisconsin, and we're not hearing much about it. This stuff is being done. It's really only hitting the local newspapers. I'm not seeing very much about it anywhere. I'm sure not hearing about it in the 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock news. This was submitted by Beth Brogan, a staff writer. Wisconsin's landmark mining moratorium, which has protected sacred tribal lands and other areas from strip mining for 15 years, is under attack by Republican Governor Scott Walker and industry executives who hope to overturn the requirement that, before obtaining a permit, Prospective mining companies prove at least one mine in the country has not polluted surface or groundwater. So far, according to EcoWatch, the industry has not been able to find a single example where they have mined without polluting water. Nevertheless, Walker recently said in his top legislative priority in 2013 was to overturn the mining moratorium law, as known as the Prove It First law. Rebecca Kemble at the Progressive reports, Governor Scott Walker recently told his supporters in the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, WMC, that his top legislative priority in the upcoming, and this was January, session of the legislature is the passage of the controversial iron mining bill drafted by the WMC and lawyers for geogebic taconite, or capital G, capital TAC, that was defeated by one vote in the Senate last spring. He claimed that if the bill were passed early in 2013, GTAC would move forward with a mine which would put people to work right off the bat. Well, let me tell you something. I'll finish reading the article to you, but I'll also let you know a few things that probably won't be in this article. She may not have known it at the time, or it may have already been published to death, that she's not going to restate what may be obvious to some. GTAC has purchased mineral rights for 21,000 acres along 22 miles of the Pinocchio Range in northwestern Wisconsin, according to the Sierra Club. In 2011, GTAC proposed to build the state's largest mine ever, 4.5 miles long, 1/3 of a mile wide, and 900 feet deep, to extract taconite, a type of low-grade iron ore. Okay, so let's visualize this. You have a thin rectangular strip that's 4.5 miles long. It's 1/3 of a mile wide, and it's 900 feet deep, just to extract something called taconite, a type of low-grade iron ore. But Democratic Senator Bob Jout told Wisconsin Public Radio that Walker is delusional if he thinks overturning the law will create the promised lands. Jout said Walker is doing an extreme disservice to the people of Wisconsin by suggesting that somehow there is going to be construction activity and creation of many jobs in the year 2013 if we pass this legislation. Even if the moratorium is overturned, according to Jouk, it would take GTAC at least 2 years to get a permit to begin construction. According to Alec Geidex, Executive Secretary of the Wisconsin Resources Protection Council, Wisconsin is now under a well-funded mining industry attack on the grassroots environmental, sport fishing, and tribal movement, which mobilized tens of thousands of Wisconsin citizens to successfully oppose Exxon's destructive Crandon mine at the headwaters of the Wolf River and enact Wisconsin landmark mining moratorium law. That citizen movement also supported the sovereign right of the Mole Lake Ojibwa tribe to protect itself from any mining pollution upstream from the tribe's sacred wild rice beds. In 2003, BHP Billiton admitted defeat of the Crandon Mine project and sold the mineral rights to the zinc and copper deposit in the Mole Lake, to the Mole Lake Ojibwa and the Forest County Potawatomi tribe. The tribe has sovereign authority under the Clean Water Act to protect its wild rice from mining pollution. They also have the right to be consulted about any legislation that would affect their treaty rights. So far, these rights have been ignored. Legislators rushing to accommodate the wishes of powerful corporate actors may be for a painful reminder about the power of engaged citizens and tribes. Governor Walker and state legislators are seriously overreaching if they believe Wisconsin citizens elected them to gut environmental laws for mining companies, said Sheila Werner, director of the John Muir chapter of the Sierra Club. In a statement, Governor Thompson understood that giving special favors to mining companies whose only motive is to profit from our resources and leave us with toxic mining waste forever and devastated local economies was a mistake in the 1990s, and it still won't work for us today. And I believe that is the end of the article. So here's a couple things. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the Mole Lake Ojibwa and the Potawatomi. We have not always the best PR and public contact with our tribes, but let me tell you something. They have, in many cases, single-handedly come up with money and attorneys in order to stop a lot of Governor Walker's little ways of devastating Wisconsin's wild areas and our wildlife. I will be bringing you an interview in the future about the fact that Walker is also trying to push through legislature in order to open up more public lands to hunting, which a lot of it already has been opened up to hunting. And if you're not really familiar with all the changes and all the things that have gone on, deer season really starts sometime in mid-September when bow season starts, but hunting season, rifle season actually, in all of its many different phases, just ended recently. Like maybe last weekend. That was, I think, the last time I was required to wear blaze orange when I walked on a trail or in a forest. Because there are so many different phases of rifle hunting. There's a whole 2-week session in October where it's take a teenager, take a kid, take a child hunting. 2 weeks for that. And it's gun, it's shotgun and whatever you have. And then there's another 2-week thing for something else, and then the regular deer season opens, and now they've got the chronic wasting disease season, and I believe that is the one that just recently ended a couple days ago. So hunting, rifle hunting, deer hunting in Wisconsin has many, many different phases, but don't think it only lasts for the 10 days that we know about around Thanksgiving. Bow hunting season started in the middle of September. Rifle hunting under those special different phases started not long after that. And I feel bad for the bow hunters because when they have a lot of gun-happy marksmen out there shooting, making a lot of noise and being usually the more disrespectful, less friendly and mannerful types of hunters that you're going to run across, it probably spoils the season for them tremendously. So with that in mind, we will probably have then future interviews and future stories to bring you. Oh, let's see. There was also another interesting thing that happened in Wisconsin concerning mining, and I want to get to that in just a second here. Oh, it's the same one. Sorry about that, folks. I guess I gotta remove that from the list now. There we go. And I also got an interesting email, which I'm going to try to pull up this story again later on for you, about carrots. And actually, Mr. Wordsworth, Michael, shouted and said hello, actually gave me a transfer of files, so we're going to be able to listen to some of his creations in the future. But here's another thing that happened to us citizens this week. And as it loads, we'll wait for that. So I've got a little bit of adjustments to do if you bear with me. Say, did I mention the fact that we have some fundraising activities coming up and also an anniversary party coming? Tickets for those things will be available soon. Matter of fact, February 9th is going to be our pre-Mardi Gras, Valentine's Day party. We're going to be featuring a silent auction, so if you're looking for less expensive, neat things to buy, we're going to try to be featuring items that come as wonderful gifts to give somebody, or things that can be done in pairs. So that will be right now the existing theme of our silent auction, but we hope to have a dance. We're going to have a DJ in there. We're hoping to have a live band, at least do a set or two for us. Okay, let me see if I can bring this up from the New York Times. This was left, let's see, this was submitted January 2nd. This is also something that just kind of slipped right in there. Secrecy of memo on drone killing is upheld. Washington, this is by Adam Liptak, published January 2nd, 2013. A federal judge in Manhattan refused on Wednesday to require the Justice Department to disclose a memorandum providing the legal justification for the targeted killing of a United States citizen, Anwar al-Awlaki, who died in a drone strike in Yemen in 2011. The ruling by Judge Colleen McMahon was marked by skepticism about the anti-terrorist program that targeted him and frustration with her own role in keeping the legal rationale for it secret. I can find no way around the thickest of the laws, or the thicket of laws and precedents that effectively allow the executive branch of our government to proclaim as perfectly lawful certain actions that seem on their face incompatible with our Constitution and laws while keeping the reasons for their conclusion a secret. Wow, doesn't that sound familiar? Not a happy thing. The Alice in Wonderland nature of this pronouncement is not lost on me, Judge McMahon wrote, adding that she was operating in a legal environment that amounted to a veritable catch-22. A lawsuit for the memorandum and related materials was filed under the Freedom of Information Act by the New York Times and two of its own reporters, Charlie Savage and Scott Shane. Wednesday's decision also rejected a broader request under the Act from the American Civil Liberties Union. David n.k.a, a lawyer for the Times, said the paper would appeal. We began this litigation because we believed our readers deserved to know more about the U.S. government's legal position and on the use of targeted killings against persons having ties to terrorism, including U.S. citizens, McGraw said. Judge McMahon's decision speaks eloquently and at length to the serious legal questions raised by the targeted killing program and why, in a democracy, the government should be addressing those questions openly and fully. Jamil Jaffer, a lawyer with the ACLU, said his group also planned to appeal. This ruling, he said, denies public access to crucial information about the government's extrajudicial killing of U.S. citizens and also effectively greenlights its practice of making selective and self-serving disclosures. A Justice Department spokesman said only that the lawyers were reviewing the decision. Oh my goodness, just crazy, 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 crazy. So basically, I have to say that I agree that he's got to be correct because you are basically green lighting that if they make a decision to kill someone, they're not going to have to justify it or ever publish what possible reasoning they could come up with at any one individual is going to be that dangerous. That's ridiculous. It's like playing God. Really, really sad to see. Let me finish, skim through this and see if there's anything else that we might like to see here. Judge McMahon's opinion included an overview in what she called an extensive public relations campaign by various government officials about the American role in killing Mr. al-Awlaki and the circumstances under which the government considers targeted killings, including of its citizens, to be lawful. Oh my gosh. The Times and the ACLU argued that the government had waived the right to withhold its legal rationale by discussing the program extensively with the public. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like the cat's out of the bag. Why pretend you can't see it? I get it. The article further goes on to state when United States citizens are targeted for killing, Mr. Holder said, the Constitution's due process protections apply, but the due process does not require judicial process, he added. Samir Khan, a naturalized American citizen who lived at the time on Long Island and in North Carolina, was also killed in the strike on September 30th, 2011. Another strike 2 weeks later killed a group of people, including Mr. al-Awlaki's 16-year-old son, Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, who was born in Colorado, consequently a U.S. citizen. President Obama and the Defense Secretary Leon E. Panetta both acknowledged that the United States played a role in the elder Mr. Al-Awlaki's death, Judge McCann wrote, but she focused on, in particular, a March speech by Attorney General Eric H. Holder Jr. at Northwestern University. On the one hand, Judge McMahon wrote, the speech constitutes a sort of roadmap of the decision-making process that the government goes through before deciding to, quote-unquote, exterminate someone, quote-unquote, with extreme prejudice, unquote. On the other hand, the speech was a far cry from a legal research memorandum. The government's public comments were a whole cryptic and imprecise. So there we go. So the government's public comments were the ones that at a whole were cryptic and imprecise, Judge McMahon said, and were thus insufficient to overcome exemptions in the Freedom of Information law for classified materials and internal government deliberations. It lies beyond the power of this court to conclude that a document has been improperly classified, she wrote, rejecting the argument that legal analysis may not be classified. Judge McMahon said she had not reviewed the withheld documents, including the one at the heart of the case, which was prepared by the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel. She said the memorandum, which must contain more detailed legal analysis than the broad statements in Mr. Holder's speech, unless standards at OLC have slipped dramatically. The Times published an account of the Office of Legal Counsel memorandum in October 2011, citing people who had read it. Even as she ruled against the plaintiffs, the judge wrote that the public should be allowed to judge whether the administration's analysis holds water. More fulsome disclosure of the legal reasoning on which the administration relies to justify the targeted killing of individuals, including United States citizens, far from any recognizable hot field of battle, would allow for the intelligent discussion and assessment of a tactic that, like torture before it, remains hotly debated, she wrote. Okay. So, looks like the government so far, due to its confusion and vagueness, has dodged a bullet. Just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I'm going to see now if I can make sure that I'm able to get to this story that Mr. Wordsworth sent me that he thought, let's see if I can pull it up here. Okay. And the header reads, "Who'd have thought baby carrots could be evil, the rotten bastards? Back to the peeler then, dad burn chlorine, arg, kill haul the scurvy dogs." Why baby carrots are killing you. This is by Angela Garrison. What could I possibly have against these cute little healthy snacks that can be found in school lunchboxes across America? It's back to school time, and baby carrots are the one snack to keep out of your child's lunchbox. Okay. It may shock you that baby carrots do not come out of the ground that way. There is no little baby carrot garden where these are harvested. Manufactured baby carrots are a result of taking all the broken up and ugly big carrots they can't put in a package, grinding them all up, processing them into baby carrots, and giving them a bath in chlorine to give them a bright, happy orange color. There are also cute cut and peel baby carrots that are whittled into a miniature form. If you look on the package, it doesn't say chlorine because it was added as part of the manufacturing and not added as an ingredient. Why is that? Packaged foods contain a lot of chemicals both in the ingredients and the manufacturing process. The tricky part is chemicals added as part of the manufacturing process are not considered to be an ingredient, therefore doesn't have to be listed on the food label. So there is no way to tell what else is hiding in that box or package. As defined by the EPA, chlorine is a pesticide. Its purpose is to kill living organisms, so it would make sense that when you ingest chlorine, it kills some parts of our own body, like the healthy bacteria in your gut and intestinal flora, for instance. Chlorine is highly toxic yellow-green gas, most heavily used in chemical agents like household cleaners, and can be found in the air near industrial areas, especially around paper processing plants. Exposure to chlorine has been linked to health problems. What is happening here? I'm sorry, my story just went away from me. Here we go. Exposure to chlorine has been linked to health problems such as sore throat, coughing, eye and skin irritation, rapid breathing, narrowing of the bronchi, wheezing, blue coloring of the skin. I didn't know about that one. Accumulation of lung and the fluids, pain in the lung region, severe eye and skin burns, lung collapse, and a type of asthma known as reactive airways dysfunction syndrome, or RADS, R-A-D-S. Chlorine is also added to the public water supply, so not only are you drinking it, but you are absorbing it through the largest organ of your body, your skin. In fact, 2/3 of human absorption of chlorine is from inhaling the steam in the form of chloroform and fast absorption through your own open pores in the warm shower or bath. The inhalation of chloroform is a suspected cause of asthma and bronchitis, especially in children, which has increased 300% in the last 2 decades. Other health risks associated with chloroform is cancer, potential reproductive damage, birth defects, dizziness, fatigue, headache, liver, and kidney damage. Chloroform is also found in the air and in food like baby carrots. Conclusion: stick to organically grown whole carrots. They are really easy to find, as you can buy them at your local farmer's market or grocery. Wash them and cut them into sticks for your child's lunchbox. Carrots are an excellent snack that we enjoy all the time, but enjoy the safe one. And this is from the Alternative Daily. We'll have to look at that source in the future and find out if they have some more interesting information. It's not surprising to me that we would find baby carrots to be a bad thing. I always wondered about that. Now, you can get actual grown baby carrots, and those are actually miniatures, and they look like little miniatures, and you can get them, but they are, of course, a seasonal item. I'd imagine that if you had a resource to some really good grocer that's doing wholesale for a restaurant or a restaurant chain, that you could probably find them, but I don't think that you find them year round on the grocery shelf at Pick and Save or wherever else you go. And the reason being, again, is because the growing season, they would be harder, they're smaller, it'd be a lot harder to keep them fresh longer. So you can get miniature carrots, and they will look like miniature carrots, and they will have the little hair roots and things on them. But if it doesn't look like that, if it's those little rounded tubular looking things that are so fun to just pop in your mouth and chew, and we've, all had them, just so convenient. They're already cleaned and washed up and looks great. And nope, sorry folks, those things are full of chlorine and they're bad for you. So we're going to move on now. I gotta see if I can find some different information here for you. I got all kinds of things going on. Actually, we're going to take a look at an article from the Wall Street Journal that I found that I thought was kind of an interesting thing. I think this actually might be an editorial, but I thought it summed up some interesting things. This is Review and Outlook, Crony Capitalism Blowout. We're going to find out what's going on here. So, Crony Capitalist Blowout, this was submitted January 2nd, 2013, and I'm trying to find the young man who did this, and I cannot find that person's name. I'll look a little farther as we go through the article, but I thought there were some interesting points that kind of just give us an overview. In praising Congress's huge new tax increase, President Obama said Tuesday that millionaires and billionaires will finally pay their fair share. That is, unless you are a NASCAR track owner, a wind energy company, or the owners of Star-Kissed Tuna, among many others who managed to get their taxes reduced in Congress's New Year celebration. There's plenty to lament about the capital and income tax hikes, but the bill's seedier underside is the $40 billion or so tax payoffs to every crony capitalist and special pleader with a lobbyist worth his $1 million salary. Congress and the White House want everyone to ignore this corporate welfare blowout so to allow us to shine a light on the merriment. Senate Finance Chairman Max Baucus got the party started this summer when he said he would subject 75 special interest tax breaks to a tax reform review. That was pretty funny. Nearly every attempt by Tom Coburn, Republican from Oklahoma, and others to pare back the list was defeated in a bipartisan rout. The senators even voted down 14-10 an amendment to list the corporate interests that receive tax perks on a government website. This tax extenders bill passed Mr. Baucus's committee 19-5, and see that, well, there's a nearby table if you were looking at it, and then sat waiting until Harry Reid and the White House stuffed it into the wholesale fiscal cliff bill. Thus, Michigan Democrat Debbie Stabenow was able to retain an accelerated tax write-off for the owners of NASCAR tracks costing $78 million to benefit the paupers who control the Michigan International Speedway. New Mexico's Jeff Bingaman saved a tax credit for companies operating in America Samoa, $62 million, including a Star-Kissed factory. So this is a $62 million tax cut for companies operating in American Samoa. I guess they must be considered that under hard times there. Distillers are able to drink to a $222 million rum tax rebate. Perhaps this will help to finance more of the fabulous Bacardi TV ads with all those beautiful rich people. Businesses located on the Indian reservations will receive $222 million in accelerated depreciation, and there are breaks for railroads, New York Liberty Zone bonds, and so much more. But a special award goes to Chris Dodd, the former senator who now roams Gucci Gulch, lobbying for the Hollywood's movie studio. So that's quite a fall from grace. The Senate summary of his tax victory is worth quoting in full. And quote, "The bill extends for 2 years through 2013 the provision that allows film and television producers to expense the first $15 million of production costs incurred in the United States, $20 million if the costs are incurred in economically depressed areas of the United States." You gotta love that depressed areas bit. The impoverished impressionarios of Brentwood get an extra write-off if they take film crews into, say, the deepest Flatbush, because they have to pay extra to the caterers from Dean and DeLuca's to make the trip. Well, it sure can't be because they hire the jobless locals for the production crew. Those are union jobs, mate. Don't you forget it. No, not all union things are bad. The Joint Tax Committee says this Hollywood special cost to the Treasury a mere $248 million over 10 years, but over the fiscal years like 2013 and 14, the cost is really only $430 million because it is supposed to expire at the end of this year. In reality, Mr. Dodd will wrangle another extension next year and the year after that, and ... Investing a whole couple million in Mr. Dodd will return $430 million in tax breaks. It sure beats trying to make better movies. Then there are the green energy giveaways that are also quickly becoming entitlements. The wind production tax credit got another 1-year reprieve thanks to Mr. Obama and GOP Senators John Thune from South Dakota and Chuck Grassley from Iowa. This freebie for the likes of the neediest at General Electric and Siemens, which benefit indirectly by making wind turbine gear, is now 20 years old. The cost to the taxpayers, $12 billion. Cellulosic biofuels, the great white whale of renewable energy, also had their tax credit continued, and the definition of what qualifies as expanded to include producers of algae-based fuel. They got $59 million. Speaking of sludge, biodiesel and renewable diesel will continue receiving their $1 Yes, folks. $1 per gallon tax credit to the sum of 2.2 billion. Let me just say that to you again. Biodiesel and renewable diesel will continue receiving their $1 per gallon tax credit. Okay, what does this mean? This means that E85, which is one of the dirtiest and most expensive fuels to provide to us, although you don't see very much of it, that fuel is costing us, and it's also costing our tax money. They're getting $1 for every gallon they sell. That's insane. Absolutely insane. Meanwhile, consumers will get tax credits for buying plug-in motorcycles. $7 million goes to that, while the manufacturers of the energy-efficient appliances get $650 million. And the builders of the energy-efficient homes get $154 million, also retain tax credits. Manufacturers like Whirlpool love these subsidies, and they are one reason the company paid no net taxes in recent years. What they're saying is, by giving them these tax breaks, they are able to put things in the books in such a way that they show no net profit. And we're paying them part of $154 million for that. The great joke here, other than we're all crying, is that Washington pretends to want to pass comprehensive tax reform, even as each year it adds more tax giveaways that distort the tax code and keep tax rates higher than they have to be. Even as he praised the bill full of this stuff, Mr. Obama called Tuesday night for future reforms to our tax code so that the wealthiest corporations and individuals can't take advantage of loopholes and deductions that aren't available to most Americans. Well, you know, it seems like what they're saying is we'll take them away, but then we're going to give them right back tenfold in subsidies. The cost of all this, I believe we have a caller. Let's see if I can do this correctly. Hello. I have to find here we go. I've got to find the microphone for the phone. There we go. Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, hi. Wonderful to hear from you. I'm going to
It's wonderful.
turn a few levels down here so that people can hear us very well. This is Logic, folks. So happy you could call in today. Logic did not get a chance to participate in the interview that I did with his teammates there, Kelly and Ross. But you're with us now, and that's just
Yes, ma'am.
great. How are you doing?
I'm doing much, much better.
That is so good to hear.
First off, I wanted to thank you for coming up and seeing me in the hospital.
Oh.
That was really awesome, sneaking up there like that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, don't give us away here. I'm not sure how many laws we broke sneaking in there.
I'm sure we'll be all right. They can send the police to my door. I've dealt with worse.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're better. Now, I was just telling people earlier that my plan is to go ahead and rerun the interview for people to hear it. We broadcast it shortly before Christmas, and that might have been a very busy time for many people, and they may not have been tuning in live like they might be now as things have slowed down.
Right.
So tell me, there's an event coming up that it seems like everybody's going to be going to, and this is going to be down south.
Yeah, we got Baton Rouge that's coming up on the 20th. The Outlook will be there. Dan Losey will be there. From what I hear, you're going to be there.
I'm going to try.
And, we're in the process of raising the money now to try to get down there ourselves. We actually went there last year. It's a great venue. They're great people down there. Even if we can't make it, I would definitely suggest if you're in the area going and checking it out, 'cause it's going to be a good show with a lot of good messages.
Now this is a hardcore event, isn't it? It's an all-day, lunchtime on. This is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it's taking place at a resale shop that apparently has. Is it an outdoor facility or is it like a warehouse facility? What do they have?
No. From what I've seen, it's an indoor facility. It's really nice. It's I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I guess you just got to see it to believe it.
Okay.
But I know I had a good time when I was down there. The
How long
bands were
ago?
great. It was real welcoming.
How long ago were you there?
We were there, I want to say, last summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, summer 2012.
This is an annual event, isn't it, this thing in January?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't have a lot of information on it because I've been injured. I've been kind of out of the loop for a couple weeks. But yeah, as far as I know, it is.
Well, you enjoyed it when you were there. That's good. Now, when you were there, you had a chance to speak. Were there alternative and hardcore bands then performing?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They were really good too. They were great bands. If you're into hardcore, if that's your thing, I'm telling you, it's more than worth checking out. These guys do an amazing job, and they're all really great, down to earth guys too. You know, a lot of people can be intimidated by that type of crowd, and take my word for it, they're just really good, down to earth, welcoming people.
Scary-looking teddy bears, it sounds like you're describing.
Scary looking teddy bear. I'm all about scary looking teddy bears. That's my thing. I'm all about that.
Wow. Well, in the interview, when I did with Ross and Kelly, when I came down, we had a chance to listen to a few of your spoken word pieces. There are, I think there's two, well, the mission statement and one of the shorter pieces is in the body of the interview, and I began with one and I ended with one.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, they're stunning pieces. I really couldn't think how anyone listening to them couldn't have been touched or moved by what they had heard. It really, I think, had something to reach anyone and everyone.
That really means a lot to me. That's very validating. Thank you.
Well, the talent, well, we won't even get into the talent. How long have you been doing that, Sean? Or can I call you Sean, by the way?
That's fine, Sean.
Okay.
Logic, whatever you're comfortable with. It really doesn't matter. Really, it's kind of something that's developed my whole life. My father was a poet and he was a drummer, so when I was growing up as a kid, those were two things that always really spoke to me, were poems and music, drum lines. So by the time I was a teenager, you know, I grew up in a lot of bad neighborhoods and inner city neighborhoods, and write these little raps in school and in my notebook, and really it just kind of all grew from there. And, you know, I did music for a long time. And then, you know, me and Kelly and Ross had talked about putting this together, and really it was just about trying to find a way to utilize what I had already done and what I had already built on, and use it as a way to speak more directly to people about this.
Wow. Kelly had mentioned to me, and she spoke a little bit about your background. She had mentioned that you had been singing and actually been performing in bands prior to actually just expanding into the spoken word aspect.
Yeah. As a musician, rapping, I've put out 5 solo mixtapes. I put out 2 or 3 mixtapes with the group I was in the early 2000s called The Agenda. I've performed all over the place. I've done shows with people like Ghostface Killer and Young Dro, Young Buck, Afro Man. You might not know who these people are.
No, I don't.
Yeah, they're. I mean, I worked hard at the music for a long time. I still do, but I'm really more focused on this now than anything else.
And you're a singer and obviously a composer. Do you play an instrument?
No, I don't. I'm trying to teach myself guitar now, but it's not really working out that well. But I'll keep at it. I'll get it eventually. I always do.
Always do. Wow. So you've been at this a long time, and it kind of morphed for you. It went just from lyric writing. Well, I would imagine, I haven't actually seen any of your lyrics or heard the music yet. Kelly told me that you do have I think it's a face page, and people can get a hold of your music if they're interested.
Yeah, there's a Reverb Nation page. It's www.reverbnation.com/The Real Third World Famine. And then you can check out some of my older music on MySpace, which I haven't really messed with in quite a few years, but it's still up there. still some good songs there, and that's myspace.com/LOGIKILLA Killer. And yeah, you go check out the music there. You can also go to my Facebook page, and that's just under Sean Patterson, and that has links to the Logic No More Victims page and my music page.
Wow, that's right. No More Victims 2 has its own page. I haven't had a chance to keep up with all of the postings. So I'll
Yeah.
try to, if you can give me that www address again, I'll make sure that that's posted with the description of today's show so that people can just click on to the radio station and get that.
Yeah, it's www.reverbnation.com/The Real Third World Famine, or www.myspace.com/LOGIKILLA.
Wow, okay. Okay, I'll make sure you'll have to check our website and make sure I've got all that correct.
Okay.
So Kelly and Ross from No More Victims 2, they're trying to do a little bit of fundraising and see if they can get down, and they were planning then on speaking. And you mentioned that Dan Lazzi from The Outlook Speaks is going to be there as well. Is this this is an all-day program, pretty much?
Yeah, I believe so.
So there's a lot of prep work, I would assume, for this. I know Dan kind of gave us a little bit of his methodology when he decides to go and speak, and what criteria he uses to pick his, to pick the issues that he's going to hone in on, particularly for that locality, for what's in the news. Do you just kind of let the events of the day rule what you are going to do, or do you have an agenda? Think messages that you definitely want to get out?
I mean, there's always kind of an underlying theme that I want to address in every time I speak, but as far as what I'm going to say when I actually get on stage, I'll usually have I'll have different poems pre-prepared in my mind, and it really kind of goes by the crowd that I'm addressing, who I'm talking to, and where I'm at. Everything kind of plays a part in it, but I'm probably a lot less prepared than Dan is. I'm a little more just off the cuff and, whatever feels right for me at that time.
A lot of what you do is live, if I understand correctly. You just get up there and this just is able to come out of you in the spoken word form, and a lot of these things aren't even written down, and you've never even spoken before.
Yeah. Some of it, sometimes things are directly from the heart. It depends. A microphone, Dan Mosey always says that the microphone is the most powerful weapon in the world, and he couldn't be more right than that, because when you hold that microphone and you're standing in front of these people, there's nothing that's more empowering than knowing that you're able to get this message out, that you're able to address people face to face and say, look, I've been through this, I've survived this. If you're going through it too, you can also survive it. There's other people here who are willing to help you. And to have that kind of motivation behind you, it can really bring your spirit out when you're speaking. And the more impassioned you are when you're speaking, the more people are going to feel what you're saying.
You cover such a wide variety of trauma and I guess pain different kind of pain that people can experience, pain from loneliness, pain from neglect. You cover so many different forms of this, and you're telling me this all comes from your heart. You must have had some personal experience with some of these things, but I can't imagine with all. Have you had dealings in all of these things?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived a fairly tough life, so most of what I write, it comes from some kernel of personal experience. Everything is born out of a seed of truth that I've had to deal with in my life. But at the same time, when I write, I really try to be empathetic and put myself into other people's shoes, and to try to understand what they're going through. And I kind of filter that through what I've been through, and then the result is whatever I write down afterwards. So, if I write a poem about a 15-year-old girl who's feeling abused or bullied in school or feeling lonely, you know, I look at the kids around me and I take what I see and I filter it through 14-year-old kid that I was, who was lonely and abused and bullied in school, and I try to look at it with different perspectives.
That's quite a gift. It is quite a gift. There was one piece in particular that I heard, I think that you call it Miss Carol, the last
Yeah.
few lines where you talk about the fact that she actually leaves a note behind for her relatives to find.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Very powerful.
That actually came from a personal experience that I had with my father. When I was a teenager, my dad was real sick, and he ended up getting put in a nursing home at a real young age. And I remember going there to visit him and just seeing the conditions of it and seeing how people were treated. And, you know, it's filtering through that and trying to show it from another perspective. You know, as opposed to a kid visiting his father, what it must have actually been like for some poor elderly lady sitting there feeling so lonely and having to deal with the things she had to deal with. And finally just letting it out, like, please don't let this happen to anybody else.
It's just incredible. Again, people will have a chance to hear it in the interview. I admire your ability to do that, to actually be able to speak to almost anyone, well, pretty much anyone, as long as they speak the same language, I would imagine. And even that might not necessarily always be a burden when the emotion that comes through the words is felt, even if the words aren't understood as their own language. It's just amazing, Sean. I hope that you
Thank
will.
you.
I hope you have more. Do you have a CD of a lot of your spoken word now?
No, I haven't really put together a CD of spoken word. Most of what I've done as far as spoken word is just doing these live shows, or, you know, just getting on stage wherever I get a chance, maybe going to an open mic or two. But it's not a bad idea. It's probably something I should look into, making a CD.
Yes, of having a collection of poems in a book, you can now have spoken word on a disc. Because
Right.
a lot of, I think a lot of the power in your words, Sean, comes across in how you speak them, because you're able to emote emotion very effectively, so people can actually feel. You can bring them to feeling the emotion in what you're saying and experiencing it, and that is, I think, what most performers, most filmmakers, most authors are looking for, is to have that way to reach into somebody and get their attention and make them feel. It's just amazing, Sean. You're quite talented.
Thank
Can
you
say
very much.
that.
I really do appreciate it. It's very validating to hear that.
Well, I appreciate that you called in today. I appreciate that you give us a few minutes, and I'm hoping that we get a chance to speak a little bit more in depth. I'm going to have to do a little bit of homework myself so that I can be sure to cover all the pertinent things that might interest those listening. The spoken word, Sean, is a new thing to me. It might have been called something else a number of years ago or many years back, but the whole idea that this is something that goes on at the hardcore shows, to me, strikes as an underground movement, and I think more people need to be made aware that this is out there. And as I think Richard Brophy, I don't know if you know Dan Lazzy's promoter.
Yeah, that's my buddy.
Yeah, he
Tell him
said.
I said hi.
Yeah, he said. Well, he'll hear you now. Hi, Richard. But he said that the spoken word is becoming so powerful and people are so hungry for it that you're actually becoming a bigger draw than the music at this point, or at least an equal draw.
That's amazing. It's good to know that it's catching on and that people are out there and they're listening. You know, that's the biggest thing, is that people listen, and hopefully somebody takes something away from it. You know, if I'm talking to a room, I don't care if it's 3 people, 30 people, or 3,000 people. As long as, one person takes something away from what I'm saying or what Dan's saying or what any of these other people out here trying to be involved in this are saying, as long as they take something away, one person, then it's worth it. It's worth the work. It's worth the money. It's worth the driving and the late nights. That's what it's for.
And you guys stay, you and Kelly and Ross, when you go to a venue, when you go to a hardcore or a hunger or some kind of an activity, you guys stay. You speak kind of early in the show and then you stay. You stay right nearby so people can come and talk to you. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. When we go to the shows, that's really our number one goal. More so than speaking and getting on stage and holding the microphone, our number one reason for being at these shows is so that when people hear these things, they know there's someone there that they can go talk to. And that's really where my cousin Kelly just shined. That she's such a beautiful person and a beautiful soul, and she's so great at helping people when it comes to that. And that's like the number one reason we need to be there is so that people have that. As a matter of fact, if anybody out there that's listening to this right now has a problem or is hurt or feels alone or needs some help, by all means, call Kelly. Kelly Piero from No More Victims. Her phone number is 217-720-2821, and she will call you back. She will talk to you. We're here to help.
That's incredible. When I was talking to her live earlier in December, I just kept dwelling on the point that it is just so amazing that she will talk to anybody from anywhere at almost any time of night or day, and she will help you do what you need to do, whether it's find the resources or help walk you through something so that you're not making these changes alone. It's not only... Go ahead.
There's not a lot of people left who care in the world, but God help me if she isn't one of them. And she truly is a remarkable person, and she can help you. So,
she credits you with helping provide her with courage. And she watches you and she says that she gets her inspiration from watching you up there, and that is giving her the courage to move forward as well. It's just beautiful.
That's a very sweet thing to say.
You should give her a hug when you see her.
I absolutely will. But the truth of the matter is, none of what I do, I could do without her. The woman saved my life more times than I could count. And if it wasn't for her, Lord knows where I'd be. So I guess it goes in turns, because she truly inspires me too and makes me want to be a better person. She makes me want to go out and help people. She helped me to stop being selfish and thinking about myself, and that's a gift I can never repay.
But you can pass it on, and I'm thinking that maybe that's what her goal is, to help you, and then you can pass it on.
Well, God willing, we'll get that done.
Well, I think it shows. I think that when you're there united as a group like that and you're supporting each other as individuals, I think it makes it really easy for people to come. It makes it seem more welcoming and more loving, and hopefully it provides that little piece of courage for those who need to step forward and ask for help and let you know what their situation is.
Absolutely.
Sean, it was really very kind of you to call in this afternoon. I don't want to take you away from, but I appreciate so much that you took some time to talk to our listeners a little bit. And we missed you on the interview, but of course you're with us in your spoken word performances and your reading of the mission statement for No More Victims too.
Right. Well, I thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. And would you mind if I kind of shamelessly plug a couple shows we got coming up?
No, I would not mind that one bit.
That would be awesome. Like you mentioned earlier, we're trying to get out to Baton Rouge on the 20th. In the beginning of February, we're going to take a trip out to Austin, Texas. We're actually opening up another chapter of No More Victims based out of Austin, Texas. So we'll be out there. Early spring, we're going to do a small Midwest tour with a band named Neon Rebels. And then in September, we'll be back out on another tour with Dan from The Outlook. And all the tour info will be on the website as soon as it's all set in stone. And, of course, the website is www.nomorevictims2, like the number 2.com. And like I mentioned earlier, if anybody wants to call and needs help with something, Kelly's always available at 217-720-2821.
And Sean, I hope that you'll stay in touch with us and remind us as those dates get closer where you guys are going to be. It always helps. As I can, I will try to post things for you. But since most people listen to this podcast and don't necessarily read all the intro information, it's best for us to get it out over the air. So I don't know if I'll see you. I'm hoping to get down to the show next weekend. I'm not sure if you're going to be going or not. But I hope you.
Time will tell. I hope so.
I hope
We'll
so
see
too.
what happens.
And I hope that I will. I think, as the saying goes, from your lips to God's ears. It's amazing when you put the intention, the energy follows thought, and you can overcome some of these obstacles. So I'm looking forward to that. And then you will give me your promise that you'll call again and update us on what's going on and update us on upcoming events. Yes?
Yeah, my most solemn word, I will call.
Okay, thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. All right, then. I'm going to let you go, Sean, because I only have a 2-hour show, and I would like to be able to get the... Oh, no, that's my timing. That's not yours. I want to be able to get the interview on its entirety before C.C. Carmichael comes in and starts his program called Life.
All right, you do that.
Thank you,
again
Sean.
for talking.
Very sweet. I appreciate your kindness, Sean. Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. All right there. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this interview started for you. This was my interview just right before Christmas with Kelly and Kelly and Ross Piero from No More Victims 2. And Sean, again, as he indicated, had a slight emergency, a little medical issue that he is recovering well from, and I'm very happy to hear that because I know we had a few tense moments there. So with no further ado, this is the interview.
Hidden from the morning, it calls out coldly. Coldly, it calls out.
The opinions expressed in the following interview are solely the responsibility of the host and her guests and are not the opinions or views of River West Radio. RiverWestRadio.com claims no endorsement, albeit encourages the following opinions.
I picture what you did to me existing in the basement of my mind. A hole in the wall of the deepest, darkest corner that was smashed through into a room with no windows that was hidden from the morning. It calls out coldly. Coldly, it calls out. It seizes my soul and it holds me, and yet somehow the air contains the hot, humid breath of shameful secrets whispered in alien tongues. Amidst the acrid air, the devil dances in the shadows, laughing at the weakness of my former self. In this room, the cold can go to your bones, but it's still warm as hell. On the floor lies a pissy, rotten, forgotten mattress that was barren, save for the stains of years of pain and tears and shame. The walls wail with the sounds of the dark side of the moon. Each chord is like a sledgehammer to my eardrum. The beat reaches deep into the depths of my chest and it tears the air from my lungs. And all the picture frames contain fractured fragments of nostalgic nightmares. It's in this room right here where childhood monsters hide. There's bloodshot eyes that are filled with bloodlust, intent to slaughter innocence and show that love does die. But that's another lie, 'cause love survived. And so did I. I had to reach deep inside to find my forgiveness. That's when God's light would break through in glimpses and shine till it's as bright as the lightning that strikes in the distance. And soon this room was collapsed into fragments. My whole world opened up and I could move past what had happened. So now I came to help you, bring some hope for your system. Because I can take a stand and I won't be a victim. No more victims. a non-for-profit organization founded on the purpose that as people who share this planet together, we must look after each other, particularly those too scared or frail to stand up for themselves. Each year, more and more children are sexually abused or deprived of decent living conditions or health care. Each day, a person suffers at the hands of someone they believe loves them, afraid to speak out against the violence. Each hour, an elderly person is forced to live in horrible conditions, alone and forgotten, and left to the cruel hands of uncaring providers. Each minute, another person is thrown into the penal system without anything close to a fair trial, forced to live in a hell that most of us pray to never have to see. Each second of every single day, people are starved, beaten, abused, and mistreated worldwide. We must do anything we can to provide them with hope, to know that they're not alone. We do not want your money, nor do we want your time. All we ask is that you stand up for something, anything, so that we can see a world with no more victims.
Okay, today I am talking to Kelly and to Ross, the founders of a project called No More Victims 2. I first met them at O'Keefe's Port of Hamburg for the Hunger for Hardcore 5 show, and I thought their story was tremendously compelling. I wanted to introduce them to our listening audience so you too can have your lives changed by this very powerful message. So I want to introduce Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
Hi.
And I want to introduce Ross.
Hello.
And we are going to spend the next few minutes talking about what compelled you to start this organization. And we'll go into some of the details of, just, the day-to-day kind of details. You do have a website. You do go to shows. That's how I met Dan Lazzi. You're going to tell us how you met Dan Lazzi. And then you're also going to tell me about how you are expanding your mission and being invited into schools and other places to spread this to younger victims, to children who may be in abusive situations. But the main point here is no matter who you are, because Kelly, I know you were very specific about saying you'll help anyone.
Absolutely anybody.
And I know that we've been talking a lot and focusing a lot on children. But the bottom line is, and the thing that really got me is what you said, and that is you'll help someone whatever they need. Whatever time of night, whatever time of year, whatever they need, all they got to do is call. And they don't have to be there alone, and they don't have to do things by themselves. There'll be someone there who will help them find the path, who will walk the path with them, and will just give them support maybe that they've never had in their lives.
Exactly. I give out my personal cell phone number. It's on the website. It's on my business cards. I honestly, any time of night, I hardly sleep. So if you ring my phone at 3 a.m, just because you need somebody to talk to, you're going through a rough time, you need some advice, some direction, that's what I'm here for.
And that's a pretty amazing offer.
Yeah.
We are here right now in Springfield, Illinois, and you have made no bones about the fact that anyone, anywhere can call you.
Anywhere. We have...
Who can reach you.
Right. We have Facebook fans all over the world.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I get letters from people, overseas, quite frequently, thanking us for what we do and for being an inspiration for them to get out of their own situations.
Now, have you toured overseas?
No, not yet. I'm afraid of planes, so I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Well, so tell me, how long have you been doing this?
Well, we started this about 1.5 years ago when we met Dan. Dan has been my angel. He's been my inspiration. We met him. He invited us to come on tour with him, and we did, and our lives have been changed forever because of it.
And I think that, Ross, we're going to ask you in a little bit to tell us the story of how you guys met Dan. But before you got to the point at which Dan came into your lives, you had to reach a point in your own life where you decided you were going to launch this, to do this, to put this message out there. How did that come about? How did you get there?
Honestly, it started as a project in group therapy. I had just had to make a collage sort of thingy, and I went with this pain theme, and I brought out all the negativity from my past, and I put it down on a piece of paper in pictures and in words clipped from magazines. And when I was finished, I looked at it and I just started bawling, and I thought, I know there's more people out there who've had it so much worse than I have. How can I make this a positive thing, And I've always been the type of person, like they call me stray cat syndrome. I take in people from off the street all the
Sure.
time. So I've always been the helpful kind of, let me help you kind of person. And I know it, for me, honestly, really didn't completely become a vision until we met Dan.
Okay.
Seeing what Dan did, I knew that was what I needed to do. That was how I was going to get the message out there. That was how I was going to help people.
Okay, we're going to talk about how you guys put that message out, but I would also like Ross to comment on where did you come from? How did you get to this point where this is the right thing for you to be doing?
I had so many events in my life that led up to the exact same thing happening, or to this point, I should say. So many things that led up to this point that they all seem relevant to me in a way. I moved to Chicago 3 years after Kelly moved to Springfield. And she's from the south side of Chicago, and I'm from Springfield. We basically crossed paths.
That's amazing.
And I moved there, ended up moving back in 2004, and I went back to pro wrestling. And I was an active independent pro wrestler, and that's how I met Kelly. And immediately from the day at the table, and she knows what I mean there, the day that we met at the table in the gym, everything from that point of my life started to make sense in hindsight. No matter where I was the day before led me to it, and I could easily see that. And her stray cat syndrome, as she calls it, and as people call it, is one of my inspirations. She is my inspiration to keep doing everything, and that I changed my life. And I feel like I was almost overcoming pro wrestling too, because it was such a part of my life. And every time that I think, oh, this sounds cool, I want to start a band, or I want to do this, I always had these weird projects going on. And now that I started to know more victims with Kelly, all these years later that we've been together, we finally start this project. I think whenever I get a cockamamie scheme, no, I'm helping somebody with this, and I look to Kelly, and she inspires me.
Wow, it's really tremendous. I think it's important for people to hear that it is not out of anybody's reach to make changes in their life, to be active in making changes in their environment, their community, their life. And you two have a very powerful message for young people, but all people, about the fact that any day, any minute you decide that you want to step forward in a positive light, in a different light, that it's possible to do that. And in your story,
Oh, most definitely.
18 months old, your story is just proof positive. And you were telling me prior to the interview how things just seem to be kind of falling into place, and that's the message to you, that this is the right thing to do. And I believe that's the message a lot of people receive when they feel that their life is coming together and things are going in the right direction. Ross, it sounds kind of like you felt that maybe a little differently than us girls do, but you've definitely reached the point where you understand what you need to focus on and what's going to get you there.
Every day I wake up and it's totally different than the day before. So, and recognizing different things is my way of coping with what I've been through. With what I've been through, part of it goes with having to keep my mind occupied so that it doesn't go into places. And when I meet people, when I help people, I don't always give out my phone number, like Kelly. Kelly will give her phone number to anybody and counsel them. And what I've found myself in my niche, which I didn't plan on, but my niche seems to be, I'll bump into somebody on the street. It's almost like I slipped, fell, and helped someone, or I slipped, fell, and someone changed my life. Whether I help them or not, I always see them as changing my life and helping me, because I always feel help from when someone says, "Oh my God, that's so amazing." I'm like, no, I think it's all on this side over here. And in person is when I get into the groove with people, and we understand.
I think one of the things that people who haven't been abused or haven't suffered from violence don't realize is that this is a pain that we all carry throughout our whole lives. You know, whether you were abused as a child, raped as a teenager, beat as a wife, it stays with you. And I know myself, I fell into some pretty dark habits to deal with the pain. And yeah, it was just like reaching that point where, you know what, enough's enough. The alcohol is not making it go away. The drugs is not stopping it. And people need to realize, yeah, exactly like you said, the minute you make that decision for change,
It's there.
it's there. And that's something I'm counseling this one girl right now. She's all, and I can't really say counseling. I'm not licensed. I'm not educated. Nothing. I can't legally counsel people. So I give personal advice.
I think we're allowed to counsel each other.
I just don't want to get in trouble.
No, I understand. But I think counsel is one of the free words that's still out there. I
Yeah.
believe that we're allowed to seek each other's counsel and advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this lady that I'm talking to right now, she's, you know, really wishy-washy. She's in an abusive relationship, one that started after her marriage broke up. Her husband took her son away from her, and he's threatened to take her further, or take the kid further away from her so that she won't see him anymore. The guy that she's with now, you know, she's telling me all the time what he does to her and how he treats her, but she hadn't yet made that decision to leave him. So I quit talking to her. I'm not gonna force my help upon you. You have to make the decision to change.
It's kind of like a tough love thing. I've heard that you go to a point, and then when that person isn't taking themselves any farther, the healthiest thing to do is to take a step back and let that person get to where they need to get in the time it takes for them to get there, like to take that next step, get to that next
Exactly.
plateau. I understand. Now, I had the opportunity to see footage of one of the, we don't call it performance. What do we call this? It's not really a show.
What we say that we do is we raise awareness through spoken word.
Okay. Zach had said that too. This is spoken word. I like that because you're not really promoting anything. Now, you both, Ross and Kelly, you both talked a little bit about your own past to how you got here. And I think that's part of how you reach out to other people, is to let them know, look, this is what I came from. This is just a glimpse into what my life was. And this is where I am now. And I think that you're offering people a chance to see that there is reality in recovery.
Oh, definitely.
There is reality in changing your life, and you can move forward. So with that in mind, I know that a lot of people are very discouraged because they don't really feel that activism is very helpful. They don't feel that there's anybody out there really helping them.
Yeah, we get a lot of that garbage. Oh, you're just hippies. Look at your tattoos. You're useless. You know, you're not doing any good. But you know what? We're not there to help the masses. We're to help that one person who needs help, you know, at every place that we go to.
Okay. Let's talk about how you get to those places. We've got Ross here, who is going to has promised to tell me the story about how you guys met Dan. Ross, would you please tell us all how you met Dan?
Well, Dan was the person that got us involved in creating the actual No More Victims project.
Okay, we should also probably take a moment to let people know that this is Dan Lazzi.
Mm-hmm.
From the outlookspeaks.org.
Right. And you should also probably give us your website.
Our website is nomorevictims2.com.
.com. Okay. So you met Dan Lazzi,
Mm-hmm.
who is also a spoken word person.
Yeah, I was going to an all-ages show at Black Sheep Cafe. I was told there was a guy who does spoken word. A friend of mine told me, he goes, go check him out. I want to know what he's like. I've heard good things about him. My buddy had to work, so I go out there. I meet him. I find out a little about him, and I said to him, hold off on your show as long as you can. I got to go grab my wife. I came home. I said, sweetie, I said, get dressed. You're going to the Black Sheep. She says, no. She says, I'm not going. I'm comfy. I'm in bed. I'm watching whatever you were watching. It was some show you were really into.
Probably Dexter.
Yeah. and I said, no, you're coming to see this guy. And so she reluctantly comes and to the show, meets him, and our lives we said, we got to do something like this. He was our inspiration for the way we founded it. And we've each tried to do things to make a difference individually in the past, and now it's all falling into place. And that one key night, and it was in April of 2011, where we said, we're going to do something like this too. And we came up with the name No More Victims due to the basic...
2010.
2010? No, it was 2011. Yep, yeah, this is where you can tell we're husband and wife. It was
18
11.
months.
Yeah, 18 months, yeah.
Okay.
We came upon the basic mission statement of wanting to turn victims into survivors. Now, stopping abuse is a lot of people's goal. However, helping those recover from abuse and helping them move forward with their life is
and raising awareness
and raising awareness, of course,
to help stop it, to try.
Yes.
Well, when you say raising awareness, do you honestly think that there are people out there who do not know that there are children being abused, that there are boys being bullied by gangs or being pressured into joining gangs, or girls who are being assaulted, date rape situations? Do you really think there's anybody in this day and age who doesn't know that?
I do.
I do too, because at that age, I didn't know the extent of it. And that was even in my own self. I didn't realize until I'm still realizing different things that have happened to me and saying, you know what, that was wrong, that shouldn't have happened.
So you're realizing there's an entire community out there of people pretty much across the board who really don't recognize that what happened to them is wrong, and that there are other people who are saying, this happened to me and this is wrong, and you're going one step further and saying, I'm here for you to come and talk to me about this. So this is the way raising awareness.
Definitely.
Okay.
And when I was in school, you didn't talk about things like that. You didn't talk about stuff that had happened to you. And maybe at least it was the schools I went to. You didn't share those things with other people. There wasn't rumors going around about this person and such happened to them. It was just not mentioned, so you'd think it didn't happen. And then if it happens to you, you're too ashamed to admit to it.
I'm sorry, if I may, I would just like to add 2 points. One, to finish the story on how we met Dan.
Oh, sure.
So Ross gets me to the venue. I sit and listen to Dan talk. And the show that night was actually pretty interactive with the audience. And I found myself crying through most of it, that, just knowing that, oh my God, there's somebody there that really understands. And I got the chance to talk to him after the show, and I invited him over to the house. I had to know more about him. And this man that I had never met before, with his big, kind, open heart, came to my house, and he sat and listened to my story. And I showed him the collage that I had made, and I told him I wanted him to have it, because I can't explain why I wanted him to have it. I just knew that he needed to have it. And so he put that on his table for a long time. It was just amazing to me that somebody like him, I shouldn't say somebody like him, but just somebody in general that I'd never met before would show me that much attention and actually believe me. Now, like getting towards what he was just talking about, as far as are there people out there that think this isn't really happening? When I was a kid, I wasn't believed. In fact, it wasn't until August of last year that my family finally learned the truth and accepted it. They had been hearing about it since it happened.
But they actually accepted it as validated it as being the truth.
Right. I was my entire life accused of being a liar, and ridiculed and scolded for making up stories.
And this was by your family and extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins.
Correct.
Okay. So you obviously had been pretty vocal, or tried to be pretty vocal, about what was going on in your own life and your own circumstance, and were met with a lot of denial, which I think many of us come to at different points in our life. But for some, it starts very early.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it started very early for you.
I was 4 years old.
Oh, that's pretty early. So here, Ross, you come, you grab Kelly, you don't take no for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
You go, you see Dan. Dan comes back with you. You guys talk. You share some pretty amazing, intimate details of what you've been through in your life. And instead of falling apart and collapsing, you find strength and you find hope, and suddenly there's a light.
I had an answer. I knew at that moment what God intended for me to do with my life, and how I was not only going to further my recovery, but help other people recover as well.
I don't assume, Ross, that you had the same light switch go on. I would assume that your experience was different.
Not much, actually.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's where me, Kelly, and Sean, n.k.a. Logic, we all kind of got to an understanding at the same time without even asking about it. We all just kind of said, yeah, this is something we need to do. And we all kind of looked at each other and said, we all kind of knew. And the most asking we do is acknowledging that, yeah, we're going to do this now.
Wow.
Seeing at the
That's amazing.
time, Sean lived in Champaign. He's my cousin. He's told his personal story.
Okay.
You know, we were both abused by the same person in our family.
Okay. Now, let's just back up a little bit. How did n.k.a. Logic, how did he come into this then? You guys were transformed, and you brought him in then and said, come witness this.
Well,
And be a
it
part
was,
of it.
yeah, because I knew he had the confidence to get on stage where I didn't.
Oh, okay.
And he is an entertainer, and he has this incredible gift with spoken word, with writing, rhyming.
He's very charismatic.
Very, very. And I knew that he had to be a part of this, because it wasn't until a couple years ago that Sean and I got together and discussed our experiences as children, and realized that we had both been abused by the same person.
That must have been a very, very powerful moment for both of you.
It was, to say the least.
Yeah, because one of the things that I'm kind of taking away from meeting both of you and having heard Sean, but not actually having had a chance to talk to him yet, is that I think one of the most powerful things that you do is you are witnesses. Now, that may not seem like very much, but if you've gone through your entire life and never had anybody validated that your sense of what happened to you is wrong and that it shouldn't have happened, to have someone witness that for you has got to be just like a life preserver.
It really was. The feeling of relief.
That you're not crazy?
Yeah, I'm really not. Like I said, watching what Dan did, and watching him on stage, and the way that he can communicate with an audience, his thoughts, and that man's head moves at 1,000 miles an hour. But it was amazing to realize I could do the exact same thing, but deliver a different message,
And so
help other people.
You really are attracting, well, you're kind of looking for different people. I know that Dan goes and speaks at all ages shows, and I know that he also speaks at 21 and over. and I understand that he kind of tailors his conversation to the moment, to the time, the place, and the audience.
Yes.
But you now, in the very brief, and it really is, brief 18 months that you've been doing this from start to where we are now, are actually going to be expanding, and you're now being called upon to bring this message to kids in school.
We are. We've been in contact with a woman that runs Camp Care-a-Lot in Champaign and Decatur. It's a camp for underprivileged children. It's a possibility for us to go out there and speak with those children about bullying. You know, we're still trying to work out the details of exactly how to cater to a child audience, to a young audience like that. You know, try to
How young
teach.
do you think?
I'm thinking
How young do you think
probably
you go?
grade school to middle school.
10 or 12, are you thinking?
Yeah.
Someone they're old enough to maybe recognize a sense of justice.
Right.
Okay.
You know, teach bad touch, good touch, and, you know, be available in case one of the children need help, but don't know who to turn to, don't realize that what was happening to them was wrong. You know, that's one of the things that I tell people who come to me for help and advice. You know, first of all, it's not your fault. You know, you didn't ask for this. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. It's okay, and you're not alone. And together we will move forward.
And I want to emphasize that one of the things that I think that you do that's very, very powerful is give a person a sense of the fact that there's not anything wrong with them.
No.
I think a lot of victims develop the idea, and it probably goes along with the whole victimization cycle, that somehow they're responsible, maybe to go as obvious as I brought this on myself, or maybe as subtle as I must be wrong inherently in order for someone to feel they need to do this to me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like a lot of the rape victims. Oh, maybe I was too drunk. Maybe I didn't say no soon enough. Children, it's just a part of life.
Now, Ross, your experience has been a little different than what Kelly's has been, but yet I listened to your spoken word at that same video segment, and you talk about not being recognized as being a potential victim. If it was for some reason that it would be an oversight that the things that you were experiencing, although equally as wrong, just would not necessarily get anybody's attention or get any notice.
Part of what I've been through, and I'm still working with it, and that's a never-ending process, is working with what you've been through. My key on that night was, your worst is your worst. No matter what your worst is, or this other person's worst is, you still deserve help from, no matter what. You still deserve help. It's your worst. With what I've been through is different than what other people have been through, but it is at the same level, because it's to your own personal self. And
Yeah, it's like comparing a paper cut to a broken leg. If a paper cut is the only thing you've ever suffered in your life, it's very traumatic.
It's still a paper. It's still a cut. Yeah,
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
If you have a broken bone, though it may be more serious, it's traumatic. And trauma is trauma. And that's where we come up with the phrase, everybody's worst is their worst. And your worst, no matter who you are, feels the same as it does somebody who may not have had it so bad. They still feel as horrible as, it's all the same.
Right, so that's the equality in this, is just that whatever the event was, it was your experience, your trauma, and it is equal to anybody else's trauma.
Exactly.
So you don't have to get to Kelly and Ross and Sean by winning the award for the most traumatic life.
yes.
We're not holding the Academy Awards for that.
Yeah.
But what we are saying is your worst is your worst, and it doesn't matter what it is. It
A
is
victim
for you.
is a victim. Everybody deserves, like he said, to be helped and to be treated with respect and dignity.
To be witnessed, more or less.
To be
Yeah.
witnessed.
Yeah, if you want to put a
Yes.
word to it. I am very new to this. My first introduction to the spoken word was actually through Zach Z from New Society of Anarchists, talking to me about how he is intrigued with spoken word. And you now have identified what you do also as spoken word. To me, this strikes me as being a very underground thing in that it's not well known, although it's spreading like wildfire amongst those who do know and are passing it on. I talked at length with Richard Brophy and Zach C. about how they're actually developing a type of activism in the hardcore scene, which historically has always been there, but many people are not aware of that political outward attitude of that type of scene. And I'm almost wondering, I think, isn't there some of that kind of associated with the wrestling scene as well? Aren't some of these fellows pretty outspoken about causes and things?
It's individually as opposed to what they personally believe in. A wrestler, Mick Foley, recently was doing something with an anti-child abuse group, and he would do certain things like he'd ask for, here's where you can donate whatever money you want. If you donate this amount of money, I'll send you an autographed picture. If you donate this amount of money, I'll give you a phone call and thank you. And it was like, I think a $10,000 donation.
I thought it was only 500.
No, it was 10,000 because I was trying to come up with 500. No matter where you were in the United States, he would come and mow your lawn for you and thank you personally for donating that much of money. And I'm not 100% on the exact price.
You've got to be kidding me. He would come and mow your lawn in thanks for making a tax-deductible charitable contribution to this particular organization. Yeah. That is just wild.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
A worldwide famous wrestler would come to your house and mow your lawn for you.
That is amazing. I mean, that is just wonderful.
I got inspiration from doing that, and we did the walk a mile in her shoes. When we did that, if we raised a certain amount of money, we all volunteered. We would carry a woman, and we carried a woman on a platform wearing high heels for a mile in downtown Springfield.
Oh my gosh.
We did the polar plunge for Special Olympics. I've raised money for the Stephanie Spielman Foundation for women with cancer in Ohio. I raised around $300, I believe, and I did that by stapling the money to myself with a staple gun.
To your clothing on your person, or to your...
I took off my shirt and would staple it all over my body. And everyone's like, oh, that is so sick. Why would you do that? I'm like, well, ask the guy who wouldn't open up his wallet to drop it in the bucket for cancer, but will do it to see me staple it to myself. What sick is.
Yeah.
All that I'm doing is getting a staple wound.
That says a lot more about the person asking to see that than the person actually doing it. I get that. I really get that.
And I have people donating money so that I wouldn't do it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's an interesting tactic. Not only do you have your own message and your own organization to make available to people, but you're also networking with other organizations. The thing that I find so important to stress is how people who are discouraged, oh, there's nothing I can do. There's no place for me to go. To see people who are coming with messages of hope and almost deliverance. Maybe I go too far saying that. But you're also saying, look, go down to the corner, put 3 cans of food in the barrel that the kids from the high school have down there. Or you got some clothes from last year, drop them off at this box at the gas station on Main and 3rd.
Exactly.
So you're also helping people tie in, helping people network, giving places for people to put their good intentions.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Not only that, but I sort of use that as my way of networking for resources. For people who call me for help. Where can I go to get this? Oh, well, I met this person at this function. They can help you. Let me get you their number.
Exactly.
So it's
brilliant.
It works out for everybody. Here in Springfield, we've really taken off like wildfire here. It's just been incredible. But we, like he said, we started working with the other foundations in town, and we all help each other, and we send people to each other, and it's all in the name of helping other people.
Let's talk a little bit how you actually get to a place where people can come and meet you and hear you and be empowered. So how does that work? How do you end up at a show?
Okay, well, it all, like I said, it all started out with Dan.
Okay.
After we decided to start No More Victims, I had stayed in contact with Dan after we met.
Okay.
And No More Victims, we decided this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to follow Dan. And so he's like, all right, I'll give you a crash course. I want you guys to come on tour with me next year. So we did. Had no idea what we were in for. We were in the car for 3 weeks, sleeping in the car, the three of us, you know, traveling from venue to venue, watching Dan. And Sean would, you know, Logic would get up, and he has such a powerful message that he delivers to people. And we were allowed to do that occasionally on the tour. And it kind of gave us a taste of what we were in for, and planted a desire for what we wanted to be in the future. It was amazing. And since the tour has ended, we have local venues and local bands that are huge supporters of ours, like Ghost Hollow Road. They are our biggest supporters by far as musical or bands go. They invite us to come and speak at their shows all the time. So that's just kind of how it happens right now. But to get in touch with me,
Yes.
just call me.
Just call you.
217-720-2821.
And I will not have to edit that out.
Nope.
Because you really do want people to call you.
I do.
You do. Now, you have the website, and you can repeat the address if you would.
www.nomorevictims2, the number 2.com.
Now, is there a story behind why it's number 2?
Well, when we were trying to come up, it originally was No More Victims Now, and I was like, no, that's too much, and I wanted to be just No More Victims. So I researched online, and the group right now that has No More Victims as their name, they are a group that reunites children who have been torn from their families during war with people who will care for them.
Wow, I didn't know about this organization.
I didn't either until we came up with the name No More Victims. So I thought that was such a beautiful, beautiful thing that we just had to become number 2.
Now, do they know of your existence?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know if I just know that I saw their name, and I saw, if you look them up on YouTube, you'll see what they do and what they're about. But I was so touched by what they did there, I wasn't even going to ask for the name. I just went with 2.
Do you have a schedule? Do you post your appearances on the website so people, if they want to come see you, they can come see you?
Yes. Like I said, right now, everything we're doing is pretty local. Everything we do, we are completely 100% self-funded. We ask for donations to help us get from venue to venue. We live on fixed income, so our resources are very limited. We pay for T-shirts. We have T-shirts printed, which we sell at every show that we go to.
Okay.
And we bring CDs, like Logic, his music that he's performed.
Okay.
Some of his wrestling videos.
Okay.
And then I have CDs of just my favorite kind of music. That's just a mishmash of my personality that we put on the table with a donation bucket, and people can just take what they want, and that's how we get from place to place.
What a story. What an absolute story. So you go to the shows, and Dan goes to where these hardcore events are going on, which makes sense because Richard Brophy is a promoter. Zach C. also organizes these kinds of things in Milwaukee, and I believe he goes to other places that are doing this, other states. Then you guys are, from what I understand, sometimes are as big an attraction as the bands people are coming to see, which I think is amazing. So you said to me earlier you go between the band sets, but with the popularity of people wanting to hear this spoken word, and this is just an amazing thing that you actually, and Dan at sometimes, are just bringing in even more of the audience than the music is. And that's astounding. That is just
I hope we're doing that.
Well, that's what I hear from Richard and Zach.
At the Hardcore for Hunger show, like you saw in the video, Ross, somebody just came up and hugged him in the middle of our little set. And at every show that we go to, at least one person comes up to each one of us at a time, at different times, and thanks us and tells us how much what we said and how much what we're doing means to them. I went to a local bar one day, and this girl, I walked in, I was wearing one of my No More Victims t-shirts, which is pretty much my whole wardrobe now. And
Understandable.
she looked at me and she said, "Is that you? Is that you? Is it really you?" And I looked at her kind of strange. I was like, "Yeah, why?" And she grabbed my hand and she yanked me outside of the bar and threw her arms around my shoulders and thanked me for giving her the strength to leave her abusive boyfriend. She was there at the Black Sheep the night that we kicked off our tour with Dan.
Oh my gosh.
She heard my story and she left her boyfriend. And that is what makes it worthwhile for us.
So that was your one person, at least once.
Yes.
That is just tremendous.
And it
That's
happens
tremendous.
almost at every show. I mean, it's gotten to the point almost where I can't leave the house, grocery store, whatever. We run into people, "Thank you so much, thank you so much." They're recognizing the t-shirts. Unfortunately, they're starting to recognize my face. But
Yeah, no more anonymity. This
You're
is on the
right,
radio,
yeah.
but not the video clips. And the video clips are on your website. I don't mean
Yes.
to interrupt you, but I did want to just say your mission statement, Logic, n.k.a.
Yes.
Sean, delivers the mission statement on the website, which I think really puts complete perspective for anyone who's curious and, well, I don't want to call these people, I don't know them. Go to that website. Listen to this mission statement and recognize your place in this statement. You are included. You're welcome. You want them to contact you. You want them to become part of a community of survivors. I personally don't like to use the word victim too much because I understand that we can start out at victims, but I also recognize that if we take on the labels, sometimes we get trapped, we get lost in that vision of ourselves that somebody else is superimposing. And what I think is so wonderful about what you guys do is you're saying, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you've been through, come on over, talk
Yeah.
to me, make a connection here.
we're not going to judge you.
Exactly. It's the no judging. So Logic does that, and there are other poems that Logic performs that people can listen to. And I listened to a few of them with you. And I've got to say, he really manages to encompass as many examples of people who could need help that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah,
And that's pretty incredible.
he's very talented with his words, with his deliverance. He's very firm in his mission. And I know he's not here right now, but
Next time.
yeah, he's very adamant on, even if you're not a victim, you know someone who is, and what you need to do is take a stand for something. Anything. You know, like Dan says, to use the microphone as a weapon. Sean's the same way. Do something. Stand up for somebody. Don't watch it happen.
The worst thing you can do is nothing. It's the absolute worst.
Sean is very, very, very passionate about this project.
So it's the three of you, and you also have people that do contribute as well. A little bit.
A little bit here and there. We have people starting to pop up and come out and say, I want to help. I wanna
Actually,
help.
that is true. We have a man, a dear friend of ours in Austin, Texas, who wants to start a chapter of No More Victims for us down there because of how much we've touched his life.
That's amazing. You could have literally chapters if people would step forward and volunteer to be a part of this in their own community.
Wouldn't it be wonderful
Oh, it
if we
would.
could just, you know, in every major city across the country, no more victims?
Miss Carol, 70 years old, deaf as can be with a hearing aid and both heroes, alone in a home. Her friends dead and gone. Her family forgot her, of course. She sits alone by a window, feeling ignored, almost a corpse. The halls that she roam up stink of ammonia. She's abused by the staff and ignored by the owners. She begs for help, sheds tears to her kids, who just look at her foolish like she don't know who she is. This is no way to live. Damn sure ain't no way to die. She clutches on a Bible. She knows Jesus knows why. And by the time the day come, Miss Carol won't wake up. She'll be home with a savior who would never forsake her. And on Carol's table was a note to her children. It was 4 simple words. Please, no more victims.
We've come to the end of our interview. It really has been a fascinating story. I'm always very encouraged when I can say, hey, there are people out there who were frustrated but have now figured out a way to do something about it. And if you don't personally have time to organize and do something about it, you can contribute, you can participate, and that will be you doing something about it. We've covered a lot of stuff. I mean, 18 months may not seem like a long time, but in that 18 months, you guys have made this decision and stepped forward. A lot has happened. I think we've covered quite a bit of it.
Yes.
But I want to give you the opportunity now to just say whatever we may not have had a chance to say yet or that we'd like to say again. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ross, and then you, Kelly. Have at it.
Well, I'm actually gonna pass it on to Kelly. I find myself almost rewording her sometimes because our statements are so similar. I'll just let her give the mission statement from the group. I'll step out. I'll bow out. You need to get a hold of me. It's kind of like the A-Team. If you can find us, maybe you can get help from the No More Victims.
I promise you will find us.
Yeah, you will.
Wow. First of all, what a wonderful, interesting evening. I thank you for your kindness in driving all the way down here to be with us and giving this opportunity to further spread our word of hope. Again, I want to remind people, I too was there. There's not much I haven't been through. Almost everybody knows somebody who's been through something and needs help, whether it's you or them. My phone number is 217-720-2821. Our website is nomorevictims2, like the number 2.com. You can call me day or night. I don't sleep much, so, sometimes I sleep days, sometimes I sleep nights. If you miss me and catch my voicemail, I promise you I will call you back. No one is ever alone as long as we are here.
And I want to double that sentiment. I believe that you are here for people, and I believe that your message strongly is that you are not alone. You mentioned that you want people to understand there's nothing wrong with them.
Nothing at all.
And that you are there, you guys, you and Ross and Sean and the other people that are going to be stepping forward and coming to the group. And who knows, maybe in the future, the satellite groups in other states and other cities. So,
That would be wonderful.
That you're here, you want to help a person, you want to help that person emerge as their own self, as a person who's validated, whose story is witnessed. If you've always been alone, you do not have to be by yourself, and you don't have to do this alone. You guys are here, and I think I also want to really thank that Zach Z from New Society of Anarchists, because with his persevering in a very cold climate and continuing to push forward and having the shows and having you guys come and really forwarding the agenda of the spoken word, all of us have had a chance to meet each other.
Amen.
The networking continues. I hope people really go away with a good feeling, if nothing else, and maybe even a sense of hope. And now they got a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
Now they got people to call.
Mm-hmm.
Day or night.
Thanks very much. This has been an interview with Kelly and Ross from No More Victims 2. We want to give a special shout out to Sean.
There's a nightmare brewing. A tumultuous thunderstorm that was hidden beneath hooded eyelids. Desensitized to digital violence, an obsession with dying and a primal urge to try it. The razor glares glowingly, begging to connect with fresh flesh. See, to an old man, 16 years is but a whisper in history. But to a young woman who's seen things that obscene, it can mirror infinity. So when the curtains are closed, they'll blame status updates and bitter tweets on Twitter. But this razor will know better, because it wasn't the people who hit her, and it wasn't the uncle that touched her. It was the fact that she felt alone and nobody loved her. I see you in the crowd, search for silence when it's loud. Just too quiet and too proud to stand up and scream. Pay attention to me, 'cause I am a human being. So the razor waits patiently, just patient to cut her. But you need to know, baby, that you ain't alone, because we're always here to love you.
The opinions expressed in the following interview are solely the responsibility of the host and her guests. Okay, folks. Well, it's Friday evening. I hope you can hear me. There we go. It's Friday evening. It's gotten a little damp out here. And it's kind of time for me to wrap things up. I want to thank Sean, n.k.a. Logic, for calling in, giving us kind of a mini interview, and giving us a wonderful preface to replaying the interview with Ross and Kelly. So, I believe that's my exit. I thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed what we covered today. Again, this is Dan Dance Trio, live at the Pi. And this is Vince Guaraldi's Genza Samba. This is Caitlin Redding. I'll be talking to you, and not next week, but the week after, live and in person. Till then, take care. Have a great Milwaukee evening. This is riverwestradio.com.